Man, I got this guy that eats, sleeps, and breathes duck hunting.
They won't in that sucker. Shoot him. First to last. It's going to be interesting.
Hey, still ain't no better place to be. All about that journey, baby. We rolling.
We're rolling.
Yeah, so I was going to ask before we got started about that sweatshirt. What's on the front there?
Oh, my beard's too long, you can't see it?
Yeah, I can't see it.
Dr. Duck logo.
Yeah. Is that a 2X or what size sweatshirt is that?
It's extra large. Ain't no 2X.
Oh, it's an XL?
Yeah.
It's pretty roomy for a... You losing weight? You can't be losing weight. All the snack intake you got going on right now.
Hey, you missed out on the last week or so. We did a whole lot of walking.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm trimmed down. Did a whole lot of walking.
Somebody lying to you.
No, seriously, we hunted with some other guys that, well, I could be both of their dads probably. And time we got to the whole week's hunting, I thought they was going to die. And I was going to have to dial 911 to get a helicopter in there to get them.
Come on.
I'm serious. I got Grant's a witness. He got it on video.
Well, I'm going to bring him up. You talking about Josh?
And I wasn't even breaking a sweat.
You talking about Leach?
Yeah, Leach and his boy. His boy's still a senior in high school. I thought he was going to pass out on me. Oh, yeah. So I got it going on. And Grant's my witness.
Well, I don't know if I trust Grant. Hey, if you're watching this, you may not be watching. You may be listening.
Right.
I appreciate everybody jumping in to listen to this week's Dr. Duck Waterfowl podcast. We're doing something a little different. This is we're getting in the last week of the season. We're here in East Texas. Both of us had to come home, get some stuff done. Grant, our camera guy, is with us, and thought it'd be really cool to go on and video this episode of the podcast, throw it up on the Realtree 365 channel, app, website.
Yeah.
So if you listen to this, you can go check out a video version of this on Realtree 365. And we're just going to share some time today, kind of wrapping up, I guess you say, the season. Season wrap-up.
Right. And if you are watching this, I apologize for the shop a little bit. We're here in our shop. And
well, you ain't been here to keep it tidy.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a little bit disorganized. And we got air conditioning equipment laying around, duck decoys laying around, and
I don't
all
think they
kinds
can
of
see
stuff,
all
so.
it. Grant's a professional.
Well, I hope he is, because it's kind of embarrassing. But, when you're on the road all the time, you're coming in and out, it's hard to stay organized. So, anyways, as soon as the season ends, we'll come in here and we're going to, me and my nephew, Dylan, this thing's going to look like a showroom.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
A duck showroom or air conditioning showroom?
Well, the other side over there is our air conditioning, and we're gonna be moving that stuff outside, and then this whole shop here is just going to be the duck shop.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, everything in here is going to be just duck hunting only.
So could we set up a camera all season next year?
Yeah. In
here and do all our podcasts on video too?
Yeah, because what I'm doing for next year is I got some people coming. We added the back porch out. We extended it out.
Yeah, I saw that on your house.
Yeah, so when I get the framers here, I'm going to have them build me a wall on wheels so we can roll it around in the shop, and that's going to be our backdrop. We can fix it up how we want it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it'll be like an 8x8 wall, and then we can decorate it how we want, and that will be our official backdrop.
Well, I have one request for the official, quote-unquote, official backdrop.
Oh, Lord.
Just one request.
What request is that?
That official backdrop of the Dr. Duck podcast does not include a photo of your face. I'm just saying. I've been moving decoys all week. I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been down there at the warehouse by myself, and every time I turn around, guess what? I got another picture of you holding another decoy out. I done moved this whole pallet. As soon as I turn around, you're standing right behind me holding out another decoy.
Well, I don't think either one of our faces is going to be on it. I think the Dr. Duck logo will be on there, and I think me and you'll get together and put all of our sponsors' logos on there somehow, or put Retay. Put the Retay hanging on the wall,
Some ducks coming in.
Some decoys hanging off of it.
I could live with that.
Yeah, it's going to be something really nice. So
I could even live with a good
pair
shot
of waders
of
hanging off of it,
shooting at the ducks. That'd be pretty cool.
It's going to be really a backdrop for waterfowl guys. Something they can look at.
I like it. So what we're going to talk about today is just kind of, we had an interesting podcast a couple weeks ago on kind of, I don't know, call it the state of the migration. Took a lot of input from people on what they thought bird numbers was. So I thought it'd be fun to sit down again with you and just kind of discuss how the season went, some of the different areas we spent time in, what it was compared to years past, and, things that went right, maybe some of our best memories. We talk about the journey all the time. That might even be a better conversation to have, is some of the better memories from each one of those areas as we move into the last week of our 2021 season. So, we tried to go to Canada last year. Canada has been a good time the few times that we made it. We really talked all last year about how excited we were to get back up there and do that again.
Yeah,
we just couldn't get it done.
And we had it lined up. Lee knew he was coming, and he had it all fixed up for us, but they shut down the border on us, and so we wasn't allowed to go up there, so it was kind of disappointing. But we circled back around and rearranged our schedule a little bit, so we actually got to take a trip that we normally never got to take, and that was a goose hunt with our friends at Retay.
Big old sky pandas.
Yeah, so that was a good trip for us. That's something we don't get to do a lot, and to see the number of geese work in the hole and the spread out there in some of those fields. And I remember one of those fields, it was just plain dirt, and we was hunting inside the corn rows. And
that was one of the better days, too.
I think so, but when I first got there, I said, man, these guys are crazy. We ain't going to kill a goose here. It's just dirt.
Dust bowl.
Dust bowl. That's all it was. And we lined up in the corn, and it was about, I don't know, seven to 10 of us, and so it was pretty fun shoot. And Axel there, having him there for the first time and introducing him to a goose, and he's never retrieved a goose before, and so he ran out there the first time and smelt of it, and he's like, man, I don't want to pick that big thing up. And anyways, you had Tuff there. Tuff went and got it, brought it back, and I started playing with Axel, threw it out there a couple of times, and by the next volley, Axel was running and picking them up. So it was just that little introduction, we had to do. So,
well, I think that was one of my most memorable hunts in that state as well.
Right.
And it's for the same reason. It was Tuff. Tuff had never gotten one either, and, you helped me. You grabbed that goose. That he kind of did the same thing Axel did. He had never seen a goose.
Yeah.
And you did exactly that. And what a lot of people talk about doing, just play with him for about, I don't think it took 20, 30 seconds. And
no.
Tuff ain't real good at handling himself, so he got pretty excited about it, and he wanted to pick up all the geese after that.
All of them. So, and that's the thing, too, about dogs and young dogs. And, last thing you want to do is just jump on them about, I know you spend a lot of time training them, but the last thing you want to do is just jump on a dog because he's not doing what you expect it to do. And you got to find out, to us, what we did was a positive reaction.
Reinforcement, positive,
yeah, just made it fun for them, got them fired up. Like Friday Night Lights, you're getting fired up, so we got them fired up on the goose. So that next volley came in, and they did their thing, and it worked out great for us.
What do you think was different? You mentioned that's a trip that we've never taken before. It was our first time. I mean, we've done some goose hunting, obviously, in the 30 years we've been hunting together. But, I mean, we've never taken an early big goose season, never take advantage of that. What were some of the things that you realized about that trip that you could compare to duck hunting? Maybe it wasn't the same, maybe it was very different, or some of the things that were the same that you kind of enjoyed about taking that hunt.
I think to me, duck and goose is pretty close together. When you're talking about Canadian geese, we're not talking about snow geese, so we're talking about the Canadian geese. And it was a whole lot like duck hunting. You don't have to put out thousands of decoys or anything like that to get them to work. And also, I think with the Canadians, it's all about how you call and when you call and how you call and to get that reaction you want. And so to me, it's very, very, very similar. They're just a lot bigger.
I agree with that. That's one of the things that kind of surprised me. You and I didn't even own a goose call.
Right.
But the guys we were with did a really good job, and I was pleasantly surprised to see how responsive geese were in the air, like a mallard is.
Right, and they responded good to the call, and that to me that was one of the funnest things about the hunt is watching those geese react to their calling, and those guys did a phenomenal job. And you know, and another thing that surprised me up there was too, when you think about New York, you think about big city lights, and so when we got there, it's just farm after farm after
beautiful
farm,
country.
Yeah, rolling hills, and the places we hunt was just beautiful. The scenery is amazing. So that's definitely one that was on my checklist for the year was that hunt right there. And, you know, and then having a bunch of guys that we never hunted with before, we got to meet. We see them all the time on social media, but actually to physically meet them and shake hands with them and really sit down and get to know them. That was another thing about that trip I really enjoyed as well.
I agree. Lots of little things about that journey outside of killing birds that makes it a good time, and that was a good time. So that was that's how we kicked off our season this year instead of Canada. There in New York, upstate, way upstate, chasing big geese, and headed back home and kind of changed gears, unload the trailer from all that, loaded up a bunch of new allure duck decoys, field decoys that you've been testing out.
Right.
And that was a great opportunity for us to do that. We had never used them. We were going to put them to work, see how that goes, and head up to the Dakotas and kind of kick off our duck hunting up there. And that's always a good trip. It was a good time. The weather was a little hit or miss this year, it seemed like, but that's something we'll talk about later that's kind of happened all throughout the year. But it's always good to get back in the Dakotas, I think.
I think so, too. Just getting up there, and, you know, we've been up there for a few years straight now, and we're kind of getting familiar with the areas that we like to be, and are we starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with, and so, but yeah, I love going up there, seeing numbers up there, running the roads, looking for them, scouting, putting your time in and your effort. And
well, before you leave that point, I'm sorry to interrupt, but before you leave that point, because we get a lot of messages that say, "Hey, I saw your video and I want to take a duck trip.
Right,
I'm gonna go here." And it's really hard to convey the message to somebody taking your first trip ever to an area. But, I mean, you could imagine it's just like going down to the auto parts store or the outdoor store, Academy, whatever store. The first time you go in, you're looking at all this cool stuff around there, and you're like, I don't know where to start.
Right.
About the fifth time you get to that store, rain's picking up.
Right.
About the fifth time you get to that store, you kind of have an idea where you need to go to get what you need to get. And it's really the same thing when you take an out-of-state trip.
Right. And
I mean, the more times you go back, like you said, we've been several years now.
Right.
So you're getting a little more comfortable with this area, and then you can move to another area, and you kind of learn, look, if this area's got birds, I got some ideas on where we can go, what kind of setup be good based on how they're working.
Well, it gives you a starting point. So after you go that first year, and it takes 3 or 4 days to maybe even find some ducks, but it gives you a starting point once you find them. And then following that next year, hey, we found ducks in this area, this field, and so you can always go back to that area and start there, and then branch out and try to find more fields. And so that's what we do. We try to find them in that area. We hunt those ducks, and then after we get through hunting those ducks, we got 2 or 3 trucks that's usually with us, and one goes north, south, and east, or west, south, whatever. We all go take different directions, different roads, so we're not scouting the same fields that somebody else has scouted with us that's within our group. So all that stuff there adds up, and then and each year you can just grow from that and know where maybe you might move your camp because you're finding more birds maybe north or maybe even west, and so you'll just move your camp further out that next following year. So to me, that's where we're at now. I feel like we got our feet pretty well grounded up there, and it's just been a great time. And of course, this year in North Dakota for us was kind of a bit of a struggle, and I think the struggle was because I just think there was probably more guys there, because of the COVID thing. They wasn't allowed to go into Canada, So a lot of guys showed up in North Dakota because in the South Dakota you got to get draw only state. So a lot of guys went up there to get all of their preseason stuff done. So
it's interesting you say that. And, we had two very different situations that come to mind in North Dakota. One was we were glassing a field. You weren't. I'm not sure that you may have been with me. I can't remember if it was me and you or we were glassing the field, and another guy pulls up and he starts looking at the same birds.
Right.
And we're sitting there and we're all watching and figure, well, you know what? I'm just going to go talk to this guy. And I end up talking to him, and he goes, yeah, I've been watching them for a couple days, and be honest with you, I tried to hunt them the first day over here. It didn't work out. They ended up over there. I was just coming by to see if they still here. I don't think we're going to hunt them. I'll give you the landowner's number if you want to call them and see if y'all want to hunt them.
Right.
I mean, how super cool was that? That's the way you envision every situation to work out.
Right.
The other situation that comes to mind is the other end of that spectrum, which is I was not with you, and y'all was looking at a field, and old boy just burned his pickup through the bar ditch, didn't
he? Right. He just pulled his we were sitting at basically a four-way nearly, and it was a four-way kind of. But anyways, we sitting at one stop sign, and they was across the street from us working a field. He comes down the street the same side that they were on, comes all the way down to the stop sign, takes a hard left, jumps the bar ditch, goes out into the field and sets up, and then you see him put his binoculars on. So he was kind of saying, hey, that's my field. You know, you're wasting your time here, you know. So it was pretty bold that he just drove out in somebody's field. But, you know, you see that kind of stuff, and we didn't get out and talk or anything. We just kind of said, hey, we can go find something else, you know. But being up there, and we found some numbers. We had some great hunts, and it was pretty exciting. And I always loved the Dakotas. And
well, you mentioned the fields, and obviously we do a lot of field hunting there. It's a little different than the way we do things in the South, which is always great to experience. But we found some success. In fact, probably the most memorable hunt for me, probably for both of us, was the duck cave stuff.
Right.
And it, you know, people could get confused if we try and stay off, obviously, roost holes, but, excuse me, water in general, really. But this was a tiny little old stock pond they dug out right beside the field, and they were coming off where they roost, pitching to this thing, which was, I don't know, a mile and a half away or so, just hitting it, getting a quick drink, and bouncing in all over this field. Couldn't nail them down into one spot.
Right.
But you nailed it down in that little, if y'all watched the video, you'd have seen him running in his Crocs in the snow after he figured it out. But that ended up being a pretty good little spot for us for a couple days.
Right, and you could tell that it was made for cattle at one point in time. This cornfield was probably had some cows on it one time because it's just a bulldozer just gets in there and makes a sweep this way, turns around, makes a sweep that way, and they just push the dirt out. So when it rains, all it does is catches rainwater, and that's all this thing did was catch a bunch of rainwater. And of course it had a foot or two in it, and just enough for them to get a drink of water. And normally we like to set up in the fields, but at this time the weather was a little bit warmer. And, you know, we did get some snow that day a little bit, but it was still a little bit warmer. They was feeding once a day. And they were sitting in this cattle pond until right at, I would say, shooting light was about over, maybe 10 minutes before shooting light. So we just couldn't go set up in the field and hunt and be legally, but they was coming in this pond for like 2 hours or 3 hours in the evening time before into shooting light, and then also they was coming in the morning. But they was just sitting in the pond. They wasn't getting out and feeding. So we had to make the decision, hey, we know they're not roosting there, so we'll jump on it. We'll hunt them in the morning and give it to them in the afternoons. So, and it worked out for us. I think we got a good 2-3 hunts out of that thing. So we treated it right. We hunted it, let it rest for a couple of days, went back to it, hunted it, and then gave it a rest. And I think we went back for, I think, a third time, I think, if my memory serves me correct. But each time we went, I felt like we did fairly well. And it was probably one of my favorite hunts while we was up there, to be honest with you, because I just liked the way they came in. You could just look up there, and all you could see these little black dots. in the heavens, and all of a sudden they just come straight
down.
Oh,
they knew where they was going.
Yeah, they didn't even check up, and it's awesome to see that, and that's something you don't get to see in the timber because you got, of course, trees blocking your vision.
That's a good point.
And so seeing that, seeing how far they dropped, seeing how far they worked down, it was pretty impressive.
So from there, we probably took a few hours south of there and hooked up with Eddie. Eddie's always allows us to kind of work at his place as a base camp and try some different things in that area with him. And I don't remember how many days was we in the Dakotas altogether.
Ooh.
You even had to fly home for an emergency trip for work, get some work knocked out, which I pheasant hunted, and I'm glad we thought about that because that for me was kind of, you got in on a little pheasant hunting action too, but my dog really enjoyed it. For him, he was able to keep moving.
Right.
And it was really kind of, it turns out, I think that's kind of one of his strengths, really, is ability to keep moving. He figured it out real quick. It was really nice to see. Axel didn't quite get the time in the field pheasant hunting that Tough did because you flew home. But we shot some really nice birds. That was a good time, kind of a good break for me. Yeah,
and there was a lot of walking, too. So that's another reason I trimmed down a little bit. So all this walking we had to do. But no, I always enjoyed, I pheasant hunting years ago in the past, and it was a great time. Of course, to do something a little different when the ducks ain't flying. You're not really on the ducks.
It was warm. It was like warm. 65 degrees up there.
I think we was wearing short sleeves.
You was in shorts.
Yeah, in shorts. So it wasn't cold at all. So it was just nice to get a break, let the dog stretch out, and shoot some birds.
Well, in that area, we were on draw, too, so you get a numbered X amount of days.
Right.
And you hate to burn them days if there ain't birds and the weather's warm.
Right.
So we kind of waited on some cooler weather, which we got somewhat. Didn't last very long, but we got some great connections we made over the years in that area with Chad and Caden coming down, and it was just a really good time sharing time with them folks and getting on birds several days there too.
Right, and that's the thing too. We went up there and we made friends over the years with Ed and Chad and those guys. Going up there and seeing them each and every year is it's been fun, and we got to know them, and they're just like good friends now. So that's a big part of it too. It's just not all about the hunting. Just get to see those guys, hang out with them, catch up over the years, see what they've done. Chad's a big fisherman, and looking at his pictures and him talking about that, and so it's always a hunt and catch up with friends time. So it's great.
So after we rounded all that up, we had to come home, knock out a little more work, and kind of kick off our kind of southern rotation down here in this area around home, a little closer to home. Typically we'll stay there the majority of the remainder of the year. And, it's kind of the same situation we ran into up north, really. Weather, top of the list of conversation again. I mean, it was... Right.
And the competition, too, is a little bit stiffer because, a lot of the guys that we normally see just during breaks of school is, they was out there year-round. All their classes were online.
That's a good point, yeah.
So all these college kids, they had every day off. And so it made our job a lot tougher to get out and find birds. And when you don't have a lot of birds and you're trying to find birds, it added it. You had to raise your game up a little higher this year. And then on top of that, we just didn't have we didn't have a lot of water either. I know it's raining right now, but we're used to getting on the river when the river's out, driving into the hole that we wanted to hunt.
That didn't happen this year.
No, we're driving down the river and you're parking and you're walking and you're
walking a little more.
Yeah, so we had some long walks this year. We had some struggles this year, but it's been all good. We found some places that a lot of guys just said, hey, I ain't walking that far to them. I'm not that mad at them. And, of course, I'm not mad at them. I'm just
passionate.
Mad at them. I'm just passionate about it. So, like most guys are, I'm not more passionate than the next. But it challenged us this year a little bit different than what we're normally used to doing. So
for me, it was like going back. I mean, that's the way we started doing things, really.
Right.
I mean, I remember we had a lot of dry years for whatever reason when we were in it early on, or maybe we just didn't know enough at the time, and that's what we did a lot of. We did a lot of walking.
A lot of walking.
So it's kind of like back to the roots this year. And despite having, most, if you listen to a lot of yik-yak across the internet stuff, a lot of people were struggling,
Right.
and you got some guys getting into some good numbers. You got some other guys getting into some good numbers late. But the overall conversation, the majority of the year that I've been hearing, is where are the ducks at?
Right.
And while we haven't had just jam up, bang, bang, banger after banger, we've had a pretty decent year getting off the beaten path and finding a few birds.
Right, and that's when we always go back to say, hey, don't worry about the numbers. Enjoy the journey, and and there's nothing more frustrating walking. I think one time, my little thing said I walked 10 miles in one day. And, and probably in that 10 miles, I probably didn't even find any ducks. And that kind of hurts, when you walk that far and you put all that effort in and you don't find anything. But there again, we got up the next day, we went right back after it, and we stayed after it and we got back on them. We found some. So it's just one of those things. It's tough to do, and I know it's frustrating when you're not on them, and you get frustrated, and you put all that work in, and that's what we went through this year. And like you said, we just didn't have a banger, but we had some decent hunts. If you take the numbers away, we got in some places where we didn't have that competition right next to us, and we actually got to work ducks. And it might not have been a lot of them, but it was enjoyed to see some of them fly and actually work down in our decoys and make some nice, good, clean shots. And to me, I'd rather have that than being in a traffic area and you're having to shoot way out there because you got a bunch of neighbors around you, either shooting your swings or you're getting frustrated because they're shooting ducks over there and you're working them in and they're flaring them out because they're shooting. So to me, I take less numbers and good quality hunts like I think we had. We had some good quality hunts.
I agree with that. And then came probably a good break from all you walking and the boat ramp sleeping.
Right.
Got to take your duck vacation. And it was
Right.
super special this year because it wasn't just me and you or you and Amy and me or it was the kids. Got to take
Right.
both our youngest boys on this trip. And for me, the timing's great. Patrick's a little bit older than Dalton, but, obviously they grew up. Both of them, Dalton was introduced to duck hole with Patrick was there. I mean, they spent their whole childhood growing up in a duck hole together. And
Right.
being able to get them back together. Dalton's in his first year of college.
Yeah.
It was just really good timing, I think, to be able to get those boys up there at Mr. Pine and experience that trip for the first time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because Patrick now he's got a job now. He's in that groove now where he can't get off when he wants to.
That's right.
And he can't go out. And Dalton's still in that groove of in high school. He went from high school to college, but yet even in high school it was hard for him to get away. And now in college, he's going to school, and of course he had to be at the school because he's working out for the baseball program. So he's not able to get out when he wants to. So both of them are locked down. So having that experience, getting both of them up there together, and I guess that's one bright light of the COVID deal. I guess we could say we got to spend some special time with our boys and get them on some birds, and so that was definitely a whole lot of fun for us.
And it comes at a good time in our year after the kind of the openers. It's usually around our split, so there's not a ton cooking here. And quite frankly, we don't get mallards till later in the year. The weather's still warm, so getting to back, being able to jump back up north, chill for a week or so, get them boys involved and see the sheer numbers. You always talk about the numbers, and that's also kind of one of the highlights of getting to go back up there. I mean, there are a lot of ducks in the Pacific Northwest.
There is a whole lot, and I guess that's why they get to shoot more ducks than we do, and their limit's a little bit higher, and so it's fun to go see those numbers. That's why I like going to the Dakotas. I like going to Washington. It's kind of gives you hope that some of those ducks will make it down south a little bit when we get here, because the numbers are just so great, and it's fun to watch them fly around, how they do it, circle and circle, and you see those duck tornadoes, and you just go at night. I just go at night and just close my eyes. It's like a dream. It's just see them going down and down. So it's just something, I can't ever get tired of watching. So I can sit there and watch them all day. So that's the main important the most important reason why I like to go up there is just to actually just get to see them. Because when I was younger in life, I didn't have the financial stability to go up there and see it. And you always see it on TV, and that's the thing you wanted to do is like, man, I just want to see that in person one time. And then once I got the experience, it's like I can't get enough of it. So I just love going up there and seeing it. It's just one of my favorite things.
See, you have a problem.
I wouldn't say I have a problem. I just say it's I
mean, the first part to fixing the problem is admitting you have a problem. You have a problem.
I tell you, and maybe I do. There's one thing we always talked about. We noticed it a lot this year is that you don't see guys our age at the boat ramp anymore.
Not a few, not very often.
No, and I was at the boat ramp just the other day, and there was a bunch of kids there. Well, I say kids, I'm old enough to be their dad, and and I got to looking around, and I was definitely the oldest guy there, and I thought I had another guy there who was just as the same age I was. He looked older than me. I had to say he did look older than me, but he was still in his 40s. So, anyways, it made me feel really old looking at him. I'm like, man, but yeah, I don't think there's too many guys our age that's doing this public land guy thing.
We run in. It seems like there's a group out at I think on Instagram it's like Ward's Driving Schools. He's just such a good dude, nice guy.
Yeah.
We run into him several times, and they travel to different states. I think they're in the Carolina area.
Right.
Him and his boy and some of his buddies, and they're a little bit older, and they still shaking it down. But You're right, man. Overall, when you sitting out there in line,
So I don't know if I have a problem or not. I like being out there with them, and I like telling them, it's like I was telling them at the boat ramp the other day, I like coming back and, it's nothing better than, they get more limits than me or more ducks than me. And then, then it's a special time when I get more with them. And it comes, we're sitting at the boat ramp and, it's all fun and games and joking because it is a competition deal out there, and it's all about having fun and getting back to the boat ramp. And we've had some great conversations back at the boat ramp. And I enjoy that too, getting back because every guy's hanging around, see what the next guy done. And so that's part of the fun for me too.
Yeah, you're right. And despite the competition, the level of competition, the numbers involved, I think it's really important, like you said, that there are lots of other things wrapped up in there. It needs to be for us, we're all on the same team, and it needs to be, right. You need to love that journey and enjoy that journey, the conversation, and working well with others. And I'm honored to get to hang out with you all year and see that firsthand on how you operate and share the love, per se. But right. So we get all rejuvenated there with the kiddos and washed in on duck vacation, and then it's kind of the schedule frees up for us. We head back down south and to that area. We come down, catch the openers in. It's a little bit closer to home, and
right.
And we kind of finish out here. We don't really have anything on the books that we have to do, and we can just kind of follow the birds. If they're here, we'll move over here. If they're here, we'll move over there. And it took us a little bit to figure out where they was hiding out this year.
Right, and we let the weather dictate that for us. Where we want to be and where we want to go. We just watch the weatherman, and sometimes he lies to us, and sometimes. Yeah. So, but anyways, we kind of rely on that and see where we're at, and we just kind of say, hey, I think this is where we need to go, and we both agree most of the time, hey, this is where we need to go, and we go give it a shot, and most of the time it works out for us, and sometimes it doesn't, but we just kind of flip back and forth between states, and so right now we're just all around that area.
We've seen, wouldn't you say, in our travels this year that we've seen some good duck numbers. Don't you think, compared to years past?
Yeah, I would say we have. And I say the hard thing this year for us and what I've been seeing, and not only with us, but the conversations we have with other guys, the ducks just ain't working.
Yeah.
And that goes from the field to the timber this year too. I mean, the guys in all the southern states and the timbers they had some struggles. Don't get me wrong, there's some guys out there that's been on them. I'm talking about the majority of them. And I witnessed it myself. Is some of them just didn't want to give it up in the timber. Now I'm not talking about the treetop. I'm talking about way we like to do it. We like to either get them down in the hole and shoot them above the decoys, if not in the decoys. And, there's some opportunities that we could have tree-topped them and come out of there with 3 or 4 limits, but we were left out of there with just 2 limits because we have a standard that you and I go by, and we like to see them down in the trees or on the water, one of the two. And so I think once you get to that level as a hunter and you stick to that level and you don't look at somebody else's numbers, because there's several different ways they could have killed those birds. And, tree topping is one of them, or shooting long shots. We try to stay away from that. Now, occasionally it does happen. We get overexcited. It happens to everybody, and you think that duck.
Yeah, but, if you're going to bring that up, I think the only heat really that I've heard this year on some of the comments, which I'll be honest with you, there's so much negativity in the world today. How guys that are on the same side of the table who enjoy the same things in life could get the yik-yakking back and forth against each other blows my mind, so I try and stay away from that stuff. But on the other side of it, I want to be, I want to pay attention to the quality of video and to make sure that what we do and how we do it is the way we talk about doing it. And we took some heat. Some guys called it tree topping, and I just, that day, Grant had dropped his primary camera in the water, and we were one camera on a broad angle that was way off the hole just to make sure we could kind of cover everything. And if you even watch it, you still see that they're dropping in
at the tree.
They're just not finishing.
Right.
But paying attention to those comments, I would start to say I'm going to apologize for what happens next. But really, I'm not going to say I'm sorry, because there's nothing I like more than a water swat. So as you close out the season on 365 and watch the remainder of the videos, you're probably going to witness a few more water swats, just because we felt, well, we'll just go on and let all these birds finish, and maybe they'll stop yik-yakking. Of course, those guys will find something else to yik-yak about.
Yeah, right.
But to your point, we even made more of an effort the last few weeks to just let them finish. We'll get them here in a minute. They coming in.
Well, to me, when we first started out in our younger days, the day we was Grant's age, or maybe around that area, there was a big debate back then about water swatting versus hitting the bird on the fly, and they said the bird has more of a sporting chance on the fly. But to me, even back then, I thought, well, it's more of a sporting chance if you can get the duck to land in the water. You've done your job. You fooled him all the way down, and that's what
you're out there to do.
And that's what you're out there to do. I'm not out there to shoot a bird at 60 yards. I'm not into that.
Well, if you're deer hunting, you ain't gonna shoot him on the run. You're gonna grunt. You're gonna try and get him to put his brakes on. And you're going to shoot him standing still,
right?
So that you can make sure you make a clean shot, which is more ethical. If you take a shot swinging, there ain't no doubt in my mind that Dr. Duck is going to hit that shot 98.9% of the time. You are an outstanding shot.
I wouldn't go that far.
Me, on the other hand, I may shoot 3 in a row like that, and then I may miss the next 8. It's just how it is. It just happens. It happens to all of us. But you know what I don't miss? And I love calling birds, and I'll call, and you know it. You say, shut up and shoot them all the time to me. But if I think I can sit that, no, I got him this turn. I got him. If I can sit him down, I don't ever miss that shot.
Right.
Smash!
Right. And it's a nice, clean shot, nice retrieve for the dog. You're not chasing birds, and then you're not flaring other birds out because you got one guy or another dog out there actually chasing a bird through the woods or through a slough, whatever you're hunting. So, to me, just getting them down and getting them in the decoys, it's a big part of our deal. But, guys hunt different, and I don't criticize the guys who it doesn't bother me how they do it. It's their choice, their decision.
It's your journey.
Yeah.
You're out there to have a good time.
So I'm not going to criticize anybody on the way they hunt or how they hunt, and that's not what we're about. We just try to be positive, and we try to show people how we do things, and necessarily, most guys agree, but there's some that don't, and that bother me. So I just want to keep doing our thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on all that, but just so you guys watching know and understand that if you see a few more water swats the last few weeks, that's kind of what we were saying. Hey, you know what?
Well, there's no if to it. They're going to see it. And, but to me, that's actually working that bird in and actually getting him down in those decoys. And,
you're right.
And when he gets there, he's looking around, and, he sees all those fake plastic look-like ducks to him, and he just kind of gets that deer in the headlight look, and then you just, boom. And there's nothing that gets me fired up more than anything. So
Yeah, for sure. And, you talk about the numbers. And the only reason I ask, a lot of people say, well, back in the day this, back in the day that. And that's something we talked about in some of our other podcasts. If you hadn't checked that out, be sure to download the Dr. Duck Waterfowl podcast or subscribe to it, and you can stay up on all these conversations. But we do feel like we've seen good numbers this year.
Right.
And when you say, I think you nailed it when you said it's like the majority of them ain't been interested this year, or they've been stale this year. And,
right.
You can attribute that to a lot of different things. Some people over hunting, some people spinning wings, some people, they're going to refuge type areas more than they used to get away from the pressure, whatever.
I think a lot of that, and another point that a lot of people don't even realize is that, I'm thinking of one place in mind right now that they're just sitting on the refuge right now, and they're not getting up and flying. A lot of those birds have been there year after year.
It's imprinted.
After year, and they know the game. As soon as they get there, it's like that memory kicks in, and like, they know the game. They've been
How would
taught.
you like to be on that spot if they rotated refuges next year?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So you got our spot picked out. You got the hole already.
I got it marked. But it's just, that's one of those things. Those ducks, they're not stupid. They're educated. They've been through the system for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And once they get there, they're like, hey, I'm not going to get up and fly because I done seen what happened to my friend last year and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that. So I'm just going to sit right here.
So your smart ducks are making it.
That's why I call them the Ivy League duck, because they're that smart, and they're not going to be stupid. So it's one of the things. I think one of the points that's not talked about is that educated duck just don't go back north and forgets. I think he remembers when he comes back down south. So especially after he's been shot at early.
And boys down there don't play.
They don't play. They're Ivy League ducks. They're very smart, and you can just move a certain way. You can look up at the wrong time, and just. Like I said, and we've seen it, and we've seen it on our this year hunting. We talk about it on our podcast. If they see one thing wrong for them to lose confidence in, they're going to leave because they're going to circle and circle because they're looking not for everything you have right. They're looking for that one thing that you have wrong, and that's when they lose confidence and they're moving somewhere else.
Delta Waterfowl talks about the ups and downs almost being. And you could go do your own research on this. I'm paraphrasing, but the way that I understood it was kind of a 10-year rotation where you see some really highs and some really lows in waterfowl hunting as a result of various reasons, right? But one of the things I was thinking about when we talk about seeing the numbers, and we've had some really good days, but we've had a lot of days where the majority of the birds weren't interested. When I think back to our early years hunting together, on days we would see birds, but they just wouldn't do it, or days we wouldn't see birds, and we'd always say, hey, our saying back then was, you don't know if you don't go.
Right.
Because you don't know if today is that one day that for whatever reason they all decide they want to be in that spot.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was thinking back to and kind of comparing this year too. It was just one of those years where we got just enough of a couple really good days,
right, to
know that we need to keep going because
right.
when it clicks, I want to be out there in it. But it reminded me of those old days. I could stay home because I don't think it's going to be very good tomorrow. But to be honest with you, I dang sure don't want to not be there. If all of them decide to break a neck, come on down and see me.
Right. Yeah, speaking of that, I lost 2 neck breakers already this year, so I can't believe that. I never lost two duck calls in my life in the same year. I just don't know how that happened.
I don't understand how you could say it's shocking to you that you lost something.
I lost a few cell phones, and I can understand that because putting things in your ear and leaning over and trying to shoot at the same time does not work out for you. I'm just telling you right now, don't try it because I done did it. I can take you to a tree, and there's like a graveyard of cell phones there. But calls on your lanyard just don't disappear. And I had 2, and, I had Bubba from Arkansas really take these duck calls. He really toned them up for me to where I really loved them.
Bubba's man.
And I lost both of them this year. And so that's part of the heartbreaker for me.
You blamed the first one on your boy.
Yeah, I did. I called him because it totally came off my lanyard. I'm talking about the string, everything, the clip, gone. I thought he took that duck call off my lanyard, and he went, because he did go duck hunting.
You was going to get him.
I was going to kill him. But
you lost one, and you knew you lost it because you had it that morning.
I was blowing it that morning, and it was breaking necks. And I was coming back and looking, and then I moved a tree and got to another tree and kind of set up on it because, I like to move around a little bit according to the way the ducks are moving. And when I looked down to grab it and I was looking for it, couldn't find it. I thought it was in there, and it was gone. It just fell in the water.
So was your first thought was, I can't believe I lost another one, or I feel bad now for chewing on Dalton?
Probably a little both. He told me he didn't get it. He'd tell me if he got it. I just thought, I was in a different state. Here he was in East Texas, and he got it before I left, and he didn't put it back on there because he's real good about not putting stuff back after he uses it, like
Takes
most
after
kids.
his daddy.
Yeah. But when he told me he didn't have it, I believed him. But yeah, I was hot that morning because it was gone. But I had neck breaker number 2, and anyways, it got lost too. So losing 2 duck calls in the season, I think that was probably the most disappointing thing of the season for me is losing 2 duck calls. Those things ain't cheap either.
And I know I give you a hard time because you lose absolutely everything, but I don't know that I can remember you ever losing a duck call.
I never lost. I got some in there that I first started out with. It's in that safe that's locked up with those guns, and they're pretty valuable to me, And so that one I know I've had it for at least almost 7-8 years. And so just to lose it like that made me sick at my stomach.
Well, we got there for a while. We'd blow them 2, 3, 4 years, and then we'd find something else that was hot and that we liked to blow, and we'd retire that to the collection. But those 2, that one, yeah, for sure. It's been on your lanyard for a while.
Real long time. So I could think back on some of the first videos we did. It was on there. So.
Well, if you're listening or watching this, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to hang out, listen to us kind of recap the season, if you will. And I want to apologize if you hear some background noise. It is raining pretty steady. I'm not sure that it'll pick up, but if some of it does pick up, I appreciate you bearing with us on that deal. Ain't much we can do about the rain in the metal building, but
right.
But over and all, man, all in all, we've had a really fun season.
Been really fun, and got to meet a lot of new people, interesting people, and that's the part of it for us too. And it was exciting to do that, and looking forward to doing it again next year. And the only thing I hate, it just takes so long to get back to next year. So.
Well, like anything else, I think that we could utilize this time to complain that we didn't shoot as many limits probably this year as we did last few years. But at the end of the day, I really think being grateful and just being thankful that we're able to take days off from work, just like every other hard-working public land duck hunter. I mean, you got other stuff you got to take care of. And
right.
You'll see some of the episodes that, I pheasant hunted without you. Of course, we cut you in that episode, but there's some waterfowl episodes that I don't make this year, and that's just life.
That's life.
And it just reminds you how thankful you are to be able to take those days, share them with good people, good friends, new people, new friends, chasing ducks and doing something that you're very passionate about outdoors. And I know you are as well. I know we're both very, very thankful for the opportunity. Still be getting after them, even though you're 112 years old and clock's ticking on you.
Yeah, it's the door's closing and the door's opening for other guys. That's for sure. And so it's I'm not ready to pass that torch on
I was about to say, I don't.
But they're gonna have to deal with me for a few more years. I ain't gone just yet, but
you ain't going nowhere.
But no, it's been a great time. I can't thank people enough for taking the time to watching the videos on 365 or our YouTube channel, Black Cloud. So I just can't thank you enough for doing that and seeing you guys and seeing y'all at the boat ramp and coming over, shaking hands and saying hello. That means the world to us, and we enjoy every minute of it. So.
We really do, and it is a great journey for us, for both of us, and every one of you guys that share this journey with us at the public boat ramp.
Right, especially when you get more ducks than me and you bring them over to me to show me. It kind of rub it in my face. Hey, I enjoy those moments too. That's what it's all about for me, and we have a great time. So Just keep it up, stay after it, keep watching our videos, and we really appreciate it. And our family at Real Tree, just keep coming on back, keep watching.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, be sure again to subscribe to the Dr. Duck Waterfowl podcast. We'll keep that thing going throughout the off season, so you can still keep up with what Ding Dong here is getting done around the house, kind of new stuff that we're checking out for next waterfowl season. Subscribe to Realtree 365. It's a free app you can get. There aren't any commercials during the episodes. Did I say it's free? Free is like my favorite thing. I love free.
Not many things you get free.
I mean, who watches TV anymore? You can watch it on your phone, your big screen at the house, your computer at work. I mean, we know ain't nobody doing nothing at work.
Right.
Just crank up that Realtree 365. But do both of those, and, of course, you can reach out to us and follow along all season long, too, on Instagram, at Dr. Duck, at The Fowl Hunter. Thank you again for following along on the journey.